Hey folks, this is Matt once again. Coming at you, coming at you with another review if I could learn how to talk. With another film that I was curious about, that I was a little bit interested, which is sort of the reviews I'm doing this week. Catch up on a few flicks. I Am Wrath. This is a flick starring John Travolta. You also have Christopher Meloni. And it's directed by Chuck Russell. And that was the thing that intrigued me the most because Chuck Russell I really enjoy as a director. If people like, who's Chuck Russell? Chuck Russell directed Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, which I love. He directed The Blob from 1988, which I think is a fantastic film. The Blob from 1988 is one of my favorite films of all time. It really is. It's one of my favorite monster movies. I think it's highly underrated. Kevin Dillon, Shawnee Smith. The Blob is a great movie. Then he did The Mask, fun Jim Carrey film. He did Eraser, very entertaining. One of the last great Arnold Schwarzenegger films. And he did a film called Bless the Child, which I thought was alright. Time waster, didn't mind it for what it was. And the last film he did was The Scorpion King, which I remember not being my cup of tea. And that was in 2002. And The Scorpion King, I remember it being a hit. So it definitely was big enough to get all these direct-to-video sequels. But The Scorpion King, I don't think it flopped. So I'm not sure why Chuck Russell hasn't directed since 2002. I mean, it's 14 years later, and now he's directed another film. I'm like, okay, this is a Death Wish type of flick with John Travolta, who I enjoy, and Broken Arrow, and Pulp Fiction, Saturday Night Fever. Christopher Meloni, he was on the TV show Law and Order Special Victims Unit. I like him. I like him as an actor. He's been in other films as well. And sadly, this film is a disappointment considering it's Chuck Russell directing it. I mean, it's sort of coming in the vein of a lot of these older guys get into this revenge type of movie where a loved one is killed or kidnapped. At least it ends up being that way. Edge of Darkness with Mel Gibson, The Gunman with Sean Penn, 3 Days to a Kill with Kevin Costner, Keanu Reeves with John Wick, and of course Liam Neeson with Taken. And I remember someone saying this was a poor man's version of John Wick, and I can see that. I really can, and it's sad to say, but I don't hate the film to death, but it's a very generic, pretty run-of-the-mill, by the numbers. You've seen this film literally 25 times in the past. And when you have films like The First Taken, when you have films like John Wick, or even action films in general, I mean, not that long ago I saw Hardcore Henry. That was, to my surprise, a $2 million budget. I'm like, they did all that for $2 million? I thought it was $10 million. I think I even said that in my review of Hardcore Henry. But then someone's like, no, it's actually $2 million. I'm like, really? And then Chuck Russell, that's another thing. It's disappointing. I'm like, this is Chuck Russell? You could put the name out of the hat for a director of these direct-to-video movies. Like a Steven Seagal movie. And I'm like, oh, it's that guy who directed Steven Seagal film, Keone Waxman, or whoever the hell else. Because nothing but, I'm like, again, it boggles my mind when I watch it. I'm like, Chuck Russell did this? The guy who did The Blob and Eraser? I mean, Good Notes wasn't too long of a movie. Without the end credits, it's an hour and 20 some minutes. I mean, with the end credits, it's like 90 minutes straight up. Hour and 30 minutes. John Travolta, I think he does fine acting. His hair is weird, though. I don't know if he's wearing a toupee, wig, whatever it is he's doing, but I'm like, man, just be bald or something. For Paris with Love, I think that's a much more entertaining action film that John Travolta did. I think From Paris with Love is actually from the director of Taken, weirdly enough. I like that film. A lot of people don't. I think that's a much better movie than this. It probably maybe had a bigger budget, but it was a much more entertaining film. From Paris with Love is... If you want to see John Travolta in this kind of role and a much more entertaining film, I mean, it's... Okay, it's not the same type of role, but... I just think about a John Travolta action movie. Of course, Broken Arrow, I think is a classic. I reviewed that. Or you'll watch From Paris with Love. This... The beginning... John Travolta's not bad. Again, his hair is weird. I don't know if it's a toupee. I don't know, just something about it. It's like another character to himself, his hair. And I guess I should have known going into this, because when I see posters for the film, one is sort of the generic, one of these. Or there's like one where he's standing there, and it's like, are you the Terminator from Terminator 2? You got like all black and a shotgun. Or if you look at the poster of Jack Reacher, it kind of looks like the poster of Jack Reacher, only replaced with John Travolta. And I liked Jack Reacher. That's another one. I liked Jack Reacher. A little bit too long, but overall I liked it. Definitely more than this. I mean, the beginning of the film, you just have... I was throwing at good points. It's a short film. John Travolta's acting is not that bad. Christopher Meloni, he's decent. That's really it. If you watch the trailer, you get most of the action in the trailer for the film. It's definitely a low-budget flick. That's really all I can say for the positives, and that's, to some, that might not even be it. But to me, it's... John Travolta, Christopher Meloni, they deserve a better movie. And sadly enough, Chuck Russell, he fell into the well of Walter Hill. Walter Hill made a lot of great movies. 48 Hours, The Warriors, Southern Comfort. And then he comes back with Bullet to the Head, and which was a disappointment. And sad to say, I think even Bullet to the Head is better than this movie. And I don't like Bullet to the Head. But Bullet to the Head at least has somewhat of an axe fight at the end. And although that still seems like... I don't even like Bullet to the Head. I mean... I know it's about 10 minutes in. I haven't really gotten much in depth to this because there's not much to say. It's a really run-of-the-mill movie. It's simple, and simple's not a bad thing, but okay. The first couple minutes is just random news footage. But then the anchor says, oh, these are not random shootings. These are targeted shootings, or there's police shootings, or there's just news footage or footage from a police cam, and just all these shootings that have taken place. I think the film takes place like Columbus, Ohio, and I'm like, I live in Iowa. I mean, Ohio's like not that far away. I'm like, is Ohio that bad of a place? But after like the opening credits, like 3-4 minutes of just these random news footage, you have the governor saying crime is down. John Travolta meets his wife, which is played by Rebecca De Mornay. I'm like, oh cool, it's Rebecca De Mornay. She's in it for literally 2 minutes at most, if that. She's in enough to, when the governor's saying crime is down, she's with her kid and like with glasses looking down writing something. Then meets John Travolta. They go into the parking garage. Guy asks for money. Travolta says no. Gets hit in the back of the head, pushed down, blood on his face. Rebecca De Mornay gets stabbed. And by the time that happens, we're like 8 minutes into the movie. So if you take the like 3 or so 4 minutes of opening credits of news footage, and then the governor saying crime is down, which is like another 2 minutes. So yeah, about 2 minutes of Rebecca De Mornay, just enough to say a couple words with John Travolta, and then she gets stabbed. I'm like, wow. with stuff cut out. Again, that incident happens about 8 minutes in. She's dead. He's talking with the cops. Goes to church. Pay his respects. He's in his room. A Bible falls. He picks it up. A passage like lights up. As if God itself, himself, herself, is saying, Travolta, look at these words. I am full of wrath and I can't hold it in. I'm like, that's in the Bible? Wow. The bad guys let go. And Travolta doesn't know why, because he picked them out of a lineup, and the cop's like, oh, well, we couldn't do this. You know what? Just wait for time. He'll OD or something. And I'm like... Of course, later on, you find out these cops are crooked cops, and even the governor's crooked, and all this happened because Rebecca De Mornay had some info that the governor didn't like, and also working with the bad guys because they have a video of the governor's kid dealing with someone who has an OD and now ruin the governor for this and that reason. And you're like, what the fucking do, right? But anyway, getting back, Travolta is pissed, sees a guy while he's driving, goes home, breaks open his wall, has a case with guns, which remind me of John Wick, and I'm like, if you want to watch a better movie of this, watch John Wick. And that's about a guy whose dog gets killed. But that is done better. Of course, the action scenes are amazing in John Wick, but just the story itself, the villain's more interesting, the music is cool, fitting, the style of the club and the lighting. It was sad to say better directed. Like Chuck Russell, this is really a run-in-the-mill direction by Chuck Russell. I am really surprised. Because Chuck Russell, again, his track record, previously, like, I'm not a big Scorpion King guy, but I've loved every other of his films. Elm Street 3, The Blob, The Mask, Bless the Child I could deal with. Bless the Child I think is better than this movie. This is so run-of-the-mill. This is so in one ear, out the other. This is so generic. This is literally one of the most generic films I have seen in a long time. And it's sad. Again, he gets his case of guns, calls Christopher Meloni, goes to Meloni's place, which has like a shooting range underneath and some guns, but at the top it has like a barber shop, and Meloni shaves him old school with a razor, and they talk a little bit of dialogue back and forth. They have a history together. And I think John Travolta and Christopher Meloni, acting-wise, are fine, and they're fine together, but it doesn't save the film, sadly enough. They track these guys down. Travolta's in a bar. A bad guy shoots a cue ball at Travolta's drink. Chases the guy. And I know this happens in a lot of movies, but in this one in particular, it just bothered me extremely for some reason. Maybe because it happened so many fucking times, it became annoying. So many times the bad guy has the gun on Travolta or Meloni or Travolta. So many guys, it's the James Bond thing. So many times they do this. Like literally 5 or 6 times. A bad guy has a gun and they talk. So that Travolta can do this, or can do this, or can do this. And one time they did the Meloni, and then they just talk, and then Meloni could do this. Like, so many times. They do it this time, they do it at the end of the film, like, every fucking time. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Every time the bad guys to them has a gun, they talk enough to get killed. It just, it becomes like a drinking game. Drink whenever that happens. It becomes laughable. Jumping ahead, Travolta gets to the governor. The governor has a shotgun. Talks. And it's close enough so Travolta can grab and blah blah blah. And stab him with a knife. And then he's in the hospital, and a crooked cop is pretending and got in there, and he talks. Talks loud enough so Travolta can shoot him. And it's just like every fucking, it just gets ridiculous. But here, like I said, the bad guy's talking, gets disarmed, and shot by both Travolta and Meloni. And when I say shot, a lot of times it's the bullet hits are off camera, so it's not too violent of a film. And the action scenes are about as good as a direct-to-video Schull movie. I mean, I say that because, to me, those are some of the worst direct-to-video action films, are the Schull films. And this... And Travolta, I like him, but you can tell he's not the most in shape. He has a little bit of a gut on him. Which I know how that goes, but if you're going to be an action hero, if you're going to be... You do have to sort of get more in shape with it. But in this film, I guess it didn't matter because Travolta didn't really have to do much in the action scenes. It's not like really extended fight scenes or not much extended shootouts. I mean, again, it's pretty much a disarm and him and Meloni shooting the guy. And they put the body in a dumpster. They lit something after Meloni poured some gasoline in there, and they light it up, and there's a little explosion. Which is what you see in the trailer. Like I talked about, there's a crooked cops, the governor's kid with his OD, so they're working with the bad guys. One leads to another. Travolta visits his tattoo shop, while some bad guys try to fuck up Chris Meloni in his barber shop. And a lot what you see in the trailer. Chris Meloni disarms him, kills two, and the third gets away. What you saw in the trailer was the best parts of that fight. Someone's swinging, and Meloni puts his leg up, and it breaks I forget, the stick, the cue stick, I don't know, whatever the thing he had, the bat, I forget what it is. The tattoo guy tattoos what's Travolta wanted, which is the I Am Wrath tattoo. This literally is, if you saw the trailer, you saw the entire film. And it wasn't much to begin with anyway. Because the guy pulls a gun on Travolta, they get into like a teeny tiny fight. This did remind me of Schull direct-to-video film. You know when Schull grabs someone and just does this, and the guy flies like 30 feet? Travolta does that. Like, gets a guy, does this, and the guy's like, oh! And then Travolta gets a box cutter and cuts the guy's neck. Nothing graphic, just, real quick. Again, what you see in the trailer. Really. Travolta talks with a priest at church. I'm like, don't tell me it's going to be like Faster with The Rock. That was another lame movie. His daughter's car is shot up. Travolta meets a guy at a club. Christopher Meloni's there. Finds the guy with this little bug tattoo he was the guy that wanted the money and helped kill his wife. And Travolta shoots him. It's one of those, shoots him like a throwaway. We don't really see much of the impact of the bullets or anything. They little shoot out of the club, and again, maybe it's because I saw Hardcore Henry, which had a shootout of them going out of the club, and I saw John Wick with a shootout in the club, or even a film like Collateral, which had a shootout in a club. It doesn't cut it. I'm sorry, it does not cut it anymore. It doesn't cut it. It's just a very generic sequence that you would see in a cop show nowadays. There's really nothing much to it. Bad guys arrive at his daughter's place, and there's his daughter, his grandson, and then another girl, and I don't know who that girl is. I'm like, is that one of his granddaughters as well? Is that the babysitter? Because the bad guy shoots her, and no one mentions her again. There's Travolta's daughter, the grandson, and then this girl in between, like sort of teenage. She gets shot. Again, is she the babysitter? Is she part of the family? No one ever mentions it. No one has any emotion to it. Not the daughter character, not Travolta, not Travolta find the body. Oh my god. Nothing. No emotion. I'm like, who the hell was that? I still don't know who the hell that was that the bad guy shot. Who? You tell me. If you ever see this film. My friend Mike, OCP, if you ever see the film, because I know he was curious about this, because of Chuck Russell, you tell me who that girl was, Mike. If you ever see the film. You tell me. Because no one had any emotion, and any reaction, any dialogue, no mention of it again. Who the fuck was she? That's not good, Chuck Russell. Come on, you can do better, man. I know you can do better. You can do better. You have done better. Fuck, man. This is so... Chuck Russell, it might as well be fucking... Pick out a directed-video film from the 90s. Well, that's even an insult, because the 90s, that'd be better. Give me a list of those directed DVD films with a wrestler in it, like fucking 12 Rounds 4, wherever the fuck they're on, or there's like that sniper movie with Seagal and Rob Van Dam, or that WWE movie with, what is it, Dolph Ziggler and Kane, or whoever the fuck it is. Takedown or whatever. I mean, pick any of them. I mean, it's just that whoever that director is, it might as well be this instead of Chuck Russell. It's a shame. It's just so generic and lazy. And the grandson gets taken. Travolta gets there, shoots one. Chris Meloni is having backup to Travolta as a sniper, shoots. Meloni gets shot, but he's still alive. The bad cop shoots the baddie that's there. And of course the two crooked cops gets there. And then Chris Meloni knocks one out, and then they get the crooked cop to drive Travolta to the governor's place. And there's security on the lawn. And then Travolta knocks him out, and when the guy wakes up, most of the security are dead on the lawn. I'm like, so we didn't even see that. Okay, that's lame. And then the guy wakes up, and he wakes up, and this is where you get the scene in the trailer where the matches are on the gas tank, and it blows up. And the second crooked cop is in the trunk. He's escaped. He is dead. He should be dead. Because you see a wide shot of him leaping up. He's about this far away, and the whole thing blows up. Like, the whole thing is fire. But then he comes back at the end. He's got, like, a little bit of scar on his face. I'm like, right. And I don't know why Chris Meloni couldn't go with him. I guess he was shot. He doesn't die, but he got shot. But Travolta kills like 2 or so guys. If I want to see a guy take on the governor's mansion, I'll watch Hard to Kill with Steven Seagal. You know, fuck you and die, or shoot with the shotgun. I missed. I never miss. It must have been smaller than I thought. That's when Steven Seagal was making good movies. I just remind me of that because of a guy going to a mansion, fucking up people, and then dealing with the governor. Was that the governor or the senator? Maybe that was the senator. Maybe it wasn't a governor, it was a senator. I can't remember. I haven't seen Hard to Kill forever. It makes me want to watch Hard to Kill. Take you to the blood bank, senator. That's what it is, the senator. The blood bank is the senator. Okay. So it wasn't governor. Same difference. Pretty much he's struggling with the governor with a shotgun, does the same stupid talking. Just like those crooked cops. They were talking to Travolta, and then there's Chris Meloni. The governor's talking, disarm, and then stabs him with the knife. And then another stupid scene. He comes out to the cops, He raises his shotgun so he can get shot. Of course, he's not bulletproof. And I'm like, well, what if they shot you in the head? I guess his plan was to get shot so he could be in the hospital, and then Chris Meloni's going to be there. But I'm like, what if they shot you in the head? You come out all in black, you raise a shotgun, someone could have shot you right in the fucking head. How do you know that they would just shoot you right here? Which, again, happens to be bulletproof vest. They could have shot you in the neck. They could have shot you in the head, in the mouth, in the face, in the balls. Maybe it's a nervous cop. Oh, shit, I fucked up. But lets the police shoot him. I mean, fuck, if that's the case, you want to go to the hospital, how about you just take the knife and you stab it in your arm, or you stab it on your side, or like a place that you know. I don't know. He just lets himself get shot by the cops, and I guess prays in his head that no one is going to shoot him in the head. Especially when he's raising a fucking shotgun to the cops. He's in the hospital, and considering this guy killed the governor, for some reason there's only like 2 guards. I'm like, again, this guy killed the governor, and we just got like 2 like overweight guards, and so guarded that the guard can sneak in, and we find out Ashley had a gun with her and put it with Travolta, and then was guided out. There's such great security, right? There'd be armed people with fucking machine guns, I would think. Or something. Again, especially for the guy who killed the governor. You know, he was a bad guy, but, you know, they would prove that and shit. But yeah, the corrupt cop, who I guess was not burned. He just has little marks on him. I mean, he was burned, but he was not dead. He does it again, the James Bond thing. He talks. Blah, 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 blah. Chris Meloni happens to be there, but it doesn't matter because John Travolta shoots him. Shoots the truck cop. I just Chris Meloni's there just in case of backup. Just I'm like, what the hell was Chris Meloni waiting for? But anyway, I guess Chris Meloni knocked out the 2 cops outside or whatever. Wheelchairs John Travolta out of there, out of the hospital. Later on, the daughter gets a postcard saying, you know, Travolta saying he's safe, he's okay, and the movie's over. So really, what do we have here? We have John Travolta trying to do a Death Wish movie that's run-of-the-mill, generic, in one ear, out the other. There's not a single action scene that sticks out. Most of it you saw in the trailer. Travolta's hair is like another character to itself. The villains, I would dare you to try to name the villains, the actors, or the characters, or anything about the villain without looking it up. Like, when you watch the film, you tell me what the villains are, and you tell me 100% what their motivation is. The look of the film, it looks like any generic direct-to-video action movie. Certain shit like, who is the girl that died? Was it the babysitter? I don't know. John Travolta, Chris Meloni do the best that they can, but Travolta and Chris Meloni can't save the film. I mean, they made it tolerable for me to watch. I guess as opposed to a Steven Seagal movie of late, because Steven Seagal, like Travolta, I think he's trying, but and Chris Meloni, I like him. They made it bearable to watch this flick, but they don't have much to work with, and it's sad because again, it's Chuck Russell, and I think that's the most disappointing thing of all. Is Chuck Russell directed such a generic movie. And I'm like, if you want to watch John Travolta in a vigilante movie, watch The Punisher with Thomas Jane, where Travolta's the bad guy. I saw that in the theater, and that has some great action. The fight scene with the Russian. The scene where the Punisher takes a knife and right at the end with the making that asshole with the grenade and or the bomb. And much better movie, The Punisher with Thomas Jane. It's just a very generic. I think some people could see this as a time waster, and I can understand if you see it as a time waster, but it's just, for me, again, for the fact it was Chuck Russell, I expected a bit more from the guy who directed. Elm Street 3 has a tiny budget, and it's extremely imaginative. I mean, Elm Street 3 did not have the biggest budget in the world, but the direction, I mean, here it just, I don't know what happened. So that's my thoughts, and I just rant on I Am Wrath. Oh yeah, and he does say the line when the governor is dying. It says, "Who are you?" And Travolta says, "I am Wrath." And I go, Robert Wrath from Assassins? That's a Stallone movie. Sad to say, I'd rather watch Assassins than this movie. I think maybe that's not saying much, but I'd rather watch that movie than this movie. I mean, he literally says the line, "I am Wrath," which I'm like, you don't have to say that line. That's when people talk cheesy, which I hate that word. That's cheesy. Like Dolph Lundgren saying, "And you go and piece his asshole." To me, that's not cheesy. That's badass. This, an old Travolta with the weird hair, and then this sort of generic movie and saying, "I am Wrath." It didn't work. It didn't work. So yeah, if this was an attempt at a '90s type of movie or '80s type of movie, it doesn't work. I don't repeat myself, but again, when you've had films like John Wick and even action films like Hardcore Henry or The First Taken or Dread or The Raid Redemption, it just, this generic shit just doesn't work, and it just does not. I mean, whoever's called this a poor John Wick, a poor version of John Wick was right on the money. That's the best way to describe this, is a poor version of John Wick. And it's sad, but it's true. I mean, at least in my opinion. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.